My name is Tiny Haynes. I'm a Principal Research Analyst at S&P Global Market Intelligence. And joining me today is Rajesh Avasti, who's the Vice President of Cloud and Hosting Services at Tata Communications. Thanks for joining us, Rakesh.
Thank you, Tiny. Happy to be part of this discussion.
Today's discussion is talking about cloud sovereignty, or sort of building a sovereign cloud. And the way I look at this and the way we've seen this been happening in the marketplace is that the cloud providers, the hyperscalers, are very strong in building their services and their capability. And over the years, they've moved out of the US or China into a lot of other countries. The problem that starts to bring is that there are sensitivities to local governments or regulated industries who are particularly worried about where the data is held, how the data is governed, and how the operation is guaranteed should anything happen. And certainly in the current geopolitical climate, we are seeing a lot of concern in the marketplace. And so what we'd have there is the opportunity for other local service providers to build their own cloud services to offer to regulated industries, maybe it be government, be defense, or people who want to keep their data secure and who are concerned about data sovereignty, to offer these sort of services to their customers. Rajesh, is that what you see, or is anything different?
Tiny, yes, that's exactly what we see happening with our enterprise customers, be it in India or outside. We saw GDPR becoming a mandate in Europe early on, but now with more and more countries, we see data sovereignty is becoming a concern and a prerequisite when they are onboarding their applications on cloud. In specific, if I talk about India, with data privacy bill coming in, there are prerequisites which government is mandating the regulatory industries like BFSI or other regulatory industries, where they are saying the data has to be hosted from a localization perspective within the country. That is the prerequisite where it started off. However, we saw over a period of time, with the criticality of the data, there are data privacy bills which are coming in, which are talking about the sensitive data to be controlled from within the country or within the law of the country itself, which is where sovereignty is becoming a prerequisite when customers are onboarding their application workloads on cloud.
When you start looking at building your own platforms for sovereign clouds, I see some of the challenges that there are is actually trying to keep up with some of the hyperscale providers. Now, obviously, if you're in a regulated industry, everyone's in the same boat, and so therefore you don't necessarily have a competitional element, which you might have outside in the more private sector. But certainly, if there's an expectation of I can have the same functionality that I get with the hyperscalers, that is going to be something that needs to be addressed because you can't or you shouldn't be able to develop as fast as the hyperscalers do in a lot of these areas, although some of these areas, for example, in retail, logistics, those sort of things which are quite specialized, don't really have much bearing on the regulated industries. What are you finding when it comes to the challenges building services in India for your customers in sovereign cloud?
I think it starts with the data classification within the organizations where they do classification of data which is shareable with all, be it their external partners or customers. The data which is shareable with restricted access to only the partners which need to have the access, and then subsequently data which is very classified and need to be controlled with the utmost care. That's where the classification becomes very important. The challenge which we see when we are working with our customers is to see work with them on doing this data classification so that we can work with them as a consulting partner to tell them which is the best platform which would take care of the sovereignty from that perspective. And that's something which we work with our customers when we uh, look at their sovereign requirement, cloud requirements. Obviously, data localization is important. That means you need to have the cloud nodes in the localized region where customer is wanting us to host the application on the cloud infrastructure or platform that we are delivering to our customers. That is a basic thing. But over and above that, how do we make sure that we have a data set from a control perspective also abiding with the law of the land? And that's where we talk about the data management plane also to be part of the sovereign data cloud platform from a engagement perspective, and assuring them that that data is something which is not moving out of the laws of the land where they are doing that business into. That's the second part of it. And the subsequent part is how do we assure as a service provider that we are abiding by the same laws as they are abiding. That makes very important thing when we are looking at this. So having this kind of a clarity is an area that we focus to work with, and that's where some of the examples that I can give you is from India perspective, we have our cloud platform certified by Ministry of Electronics and IT for hosting critical databases for our customers. That is one. Second, for the federal government or the government entities to host their environment, as per METI, they have a separate environment to be created. So we've created a government community cloud where only India government and PSU customers can be hosted. And they come with their own security and controls, both from cyber security as well as from a physical security perspective as well. They would want the access to those physical environments also to be restricted in that framework what they have defined as part of empanelment of the cloud providers. Similarly, if you talk about Singapore, Singapore also did classification of how data can be deployed on the cloud environment. They call it as MTCS, which is multi-tenant cloud services platform. They have different levels there. So how do we make sure that we are meeting the highest level, which is the level 3, which they have identified to put the critical data environment. So making sure that we comply to that, as well as making sure from a management perspective, we are meeting the metadata control management plane requirement also for that particular geography where we are operating. Similarly, if you talk about UK government has their own compliances when they talk about such deployments to be done for critical data to be deployed. These are specifically from a horizontal perspective, but there are guidelines even which are specific to industry verticals. If you are from BFSI segment, and if you have payment systems available, how do you comply to PCI DSS compliance? Or if you're talking about healthcare systems to be deployed on your environment, how are you making sure that HIPAA compliance is taken care of? So those are some of the challenges that we need to be aware of when we deploy our cloud services, and make sure that we are complying to all those mandates and requirements which are being specified by either industry vertical bodies or by the governments when they are looking at their sovereign cloud requirements. And that's what we work with the respective agencies to create an environment for them.
Yeah, well, that's ideal. I mean, that brings us on to the final question, which for today is when you're looking at sovereign clouds, what's the best practices? And I think that you've obviously picked up very quickly on the classification of data. It's a waste of time classifying data which is fairly irrelevant, but there's also needs to have that sensitivity and understanding of the data itself, and whether that be through the availability and the integrity and the confidentiality, or whether it be through the residency of the data, but also looking at the suppliers themselves. Are they able to guarantee supply in case of any sort of geopolitical crisis? Lord knows that the situation at the moment globally is unstable, and it's not showing any signs of getting any better. So not only do you have to be aware of the regulation, but you also have to be aware of maybe some tariffs that might be put on to goods or IT components going out from different countries as time progresses in the geopolitical environment. So best practice is really to work on understand your data, but also make sure that the service provider themselves are fully compliant, that they are able to guarantee their own sovereignty, the fact that they are a legal entity in their own country, and then making sure that they provide the right services for you, and making sure that they are able to guarantee that confidentiality throughout, whether it be from the network to the actual cloud itself. That's I see as being the most important things to look at first of all. Anything else that you'd like to add to that? Anything else that Tata are doing on top?
Tiny, I think you covered most of the points, but as I was highlighting, what is important is to know both the sides. One, what are the compliance requirement from regulatory perspective or from a law of the land perspective. That is something which is very important to know of, and that's where you highlighted a very pertinent point, that you need to have a legal entity in country where you are delivering those services on. And being a global network service provider to help customers in their hyper-connected ecosystem development, when they work with us, we have our entities available in all the geographies that we deploy and deliver these services from our cloud environment. That's very important, and that's something which we work on from a compliance perspective with the customer. Second, as you highlighted, data classification is the most important thing. A lot of enterprises do not have that practice in-house. And as a professional services company, we do work as a cloud provider as well as a managed security services provider to help them deploying tools and services which would help them classify that deployment or classification of that data well for the environments which they are deploying. That's where either we will deploy a DLP solution as a service to our customers to help them in that journey when they are looking at making sure that they have their workloads running on this environment as per the sovereign guidelines for the geography where they are working on. That being said, one of the things which you highlighted in today's geopolitical scenario, it is also important that when you are working as a global service provider, you have systems and processes to take care of eventualities in case of any geopolitical issues. From Tata Communication perspective, some of the things which we do from a management perspective is, yes, we do monitor and manage some of our customers through India, but we have made sure that we have our systems deployed outside of India as well to support our customers.
Well, thanks for that, Rajesh. We can talk about this whole idea of the government legislation taking years to come through, but the geopolitical situation can change within minutes. So thank you very much indeed, Rajesh, for joining us.
Thank you, Tiny. And in case you want more information on Sovereign Cloud, please visit our website, tatacommunication.com.
And if you're looking for more information from the 451 site, you can find it at 451research.com.